Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to, I would usually say the wine review, but I am doing bourbon today. I am doing Basil Hayden's Artfully Aged. Has like a BH, kind of like a belt that goes around it. It's usually about $40 to $50 a bottle, depending on where you can get it from. Some of the older Basil Haydens in the top right would have said aged 8 years, but now they are all saying artfully aged because there's no guarantee now that of the age process. So they just kind of want you to know that it still is aged, but they don't want to put a number on it. Basil Hayden's Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. When Basil Hayden Sr. began distilling his smooth bourbon here in 1796, Kentucky was but 4 years old, and George Washington was president. Today we make Basil Hayden's Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey using the same skill and care that made it a favorite among America's frontier settlers. Distilled and bottled by Kentucky Springs Distilling Company, Claremont, Frankfort, Connecticut, USA. 40% alcohol by volume, 80 proof. Artfully aged in Kentucky hillside rack houses, then bottled at a smooth 80 proof, Basil Hayden's sophisticated taste remains true to the old family recipe, with more rye than a traditional bourbon and its trademark spicy finish. It's easy to enjoy Basil Hayden's any way you like, which typically I like to do it with one ice cube. I like to put one ice cube in, just sort of pour it around maybe for like 30 seconds, and then take the ice cube out. And that way it's had some time to sort of give it a little bit of water to sort of open up the flavors and aromas without so much as watering it down. But it's also made it so that it's a little bit all on the core side. And being that I am getting into bourbon, I am fairly new at bourbon, I was told that recommended that that's the best route to go if you're getting new into bourbon. And then as you progress, then you can decide whether or not you want to do it on the rocks, do it neat, which means no ice, mix it with something. I like at least having there be a little bit of water, so I like putting in one ice cube for just a minute. So with that, don't really have a bourbon glass, but this will have to do for now. Really a great golden color. You can also make that out in a bottle as well. Just a really nice golden color, kind of a light caramel component to it. Just looks really nice. Just golden and all that, deep dark golden. So on the nose, really playing out a lot of spices. Like spices like pepper, but then also spices like maybe the cinnamon. There's definitely some oak component going in there, some woodsy component. There's some vanilla taste, vanilla aromas going on. Hmm. There's almost like a light herbal note in there as well. All right. Well, oh, and as you can see in the background right there, that's my bourbon collection I'm starting. So just so you all know, what I currently have right now is the Basil Hayden's. I have Maker's 46. I have 3 that are our own barrels. That's Jefferson's Reserve, Elijah Craig, and then our Maker's Private Select. And not only is our Maker's Private Select our own barrel, but it's our own oak staves, which is something that Maker's Mark has just started a couple years ago. They allowed restaurants or liquor stores, if they want, to sort of go in, get their own barrel, then also chose from 10 oak staves, in combination of 5 different, I guess, flavors to go into it, sort of created the way that specifically designed that they want. So those ones will taste very much different than somebody else's, because it's a different barrel and it's different staves, or well, it's 10 staves, but a different mixture of the flavor to go into it. So unless they do exactly the same way, most of them will be extremely different tasting. So that for that one, I may not review, but I'll review the 4 others. I just got a rye today as well, 1776, by James E. Pepper, I think. So I'm definitely going to be doing maybe 1 a month. I'm going to start slowly collecting ryes and bourbons. I got at least maybe a couple dozen that I would that I like, that I would want to own and review for you all coming up in the years to come. Anyway, now that I mentioned all the components of how it smells, it's funny though. It doesn't smell very strong like some other bourbons or ryes I've had. This one's more tame. I mean, 80 proof, it would be tame. Definitely what I've been told to be a beginner's bourbon, but also one to still be enjoyed by others as well, people who do like to drink bourbon. So I'm going to give it a sip. Now, when you're drinking bourbon, you don't drink it like wine. You don't do you do not suck. You just sort of almost kind of like smack your lips, kind of as if you're chewing the bourbon or the rye. Because if you suck it, you'll cough along. But you just sort of like let it coat your mouth, let it chew it a little bit, just let it sort of soak in to the tongue, and just take a little bit of time for it to sort of really resonate in. So that's what we're going to do here. Very smooth. I've had some of the other bourbons that I've had, higher proof, much more burn going down. This one's very smooth. Definitely get like a vanilla taste on there. Still get some of those spices on there, some of those bacon spices. Still a little bit of pepper taste. A little bit of oak taste as well. A little bit of wood. A little bit of that woodness going on. And I think that's why I like it, especially me being so new to it. I think this is one thing that really resonates different. Oh, and then the thing about this is a higher rye bourbon, as I mentioned, so it definitely does play through on the taste. It does have a spicy taste, but being that it's 80 proof, it's not as strong as some rye that I have had. So still relatively smooth, but you still have that little bit of spice burn to a little bit of that ryeness going on. I mean, this is just something you could do a couple fingers of, have a couple glasses, and just enjoy a couple glasses throughout the night. I like this, and this is going to be weird how I'm going to rate the bourbons, because bourbons, unlike wine, I open a bottle of wine and I give you a review on it. The very next day, I could think it might be a lot better or a lot worse. Especially if it's red wine. I might think that the red wine is just completely terrible the next day. It's a one-day thing. White wine, white wine lasts a little bit, but I could say, oh, maybe, or maybe lay this red down another few years, see how it opens up. Bourbon and rye are different. Bourbon and rye have already been aged. They already have been aged to the point where it doesn't matter. The way they're made is that they're ready to go into the bottle. And, now that I've opened it, it might lose its flavor over time. But it's not like I have to worry about downing this bottle by the end of the year. I mean, I could be here next year probably giving you the exact same flavors and descriptions. And if I never had opened this bottle, I could probably keep it in the cupboard for 20 years and it'll still taste the same. It's not going to be any different. Whereas if you lay a bottle of wine down, it will tend to sort of change over time. So that's a big thing. That's a big difference about how I'm going to do my rating based off of wine, is that this is it. How this tastes now is how it's going to taste tomorrow and the next day, possibly for a couple years. Eventually, yes, it may start to lose flavor, but this is how it's going to taste today, tomorrow, Friday, January 1st, 2018. It's not going to change. So I'm basically just going to say what I think, how I feel, what it is right now as soon as you buy it. Now this one does not have a batch number on it, so it probably does not change much over time. Some do have different batches on them, different barrel numbers, so the make is a little different. This, I imagine, they pretty much just make it the same all the time. So unless if I ever come across a bourbon that I know distinctly does have different batch numbers, then that'll be different. So with this, I guess out of 5 stars, my very first one. So, but my first one I'm reviewing for you all. I have tried other bourbons and ryes, so my first one I'm reviewing. So I am going to give this a slightly high score, but it's not going to be a perfect 5. I would say, based off of what I've tried and what I like, this probably gets a 4 out of 5. It's a very great bourbon, a very delicious bourbon, a very smooth, flavorful bourbon with the high rye going in, though, with it being low proof, though. I would feel that this would be something more spicier, more sort of burn. There's really not a huge burn in there, maybe just a touch of fiery burnness for a couple seconds, but it really mellows out quickly, which isn't a bad thing. I like, but then again, high rye, low proof. I would, and some others are really much more higher in proof. So definitely really right up my alley for a beginner, but also at the same time, I've had some other really spicy, fiery, higher proof ones, and It'd be nice if this was maybe just a little bit more higher in proof. 80 is kind of like the standard what you're entering at. So overall, 4 to 5. Maybe if it was a little bit higher in proof, I would have gone for 4.5. But this one gets a 4. In fact, I was going to give it a 4.5, but I was like, you know what, 80 proof, kind of on the low end, but still, I can still enjoy it. And you can probably find this everywhere. There's not a lot of places I could think that you wouldn't find Basil Hayden at a liquor store. Very generic, very everyday kind of what you'll see. Almost all bourbon drinkers, I've been told, may just keep one of these around just to have. So now that I'm getting the bourbon, I'm always going to keep one of these around. All right, everyone. Well, I am Ryan the Wine Guy, or the bourbon, whiskey, spirit, whatever guy you want to call me now, as I'm ending my very first bourbon review, or whiskey review, I should say, because I am going to do some ryes. My very first whiskey review for you all. And I look forward to coming up. My next one will go back to wine, but as I said, I think once a month or twice a month, as long as I keep up with my collection, I will always give you all a new one to taste and a new one to review. Okay, everyone, this was fun. I'm excited. I'm excited to go and try new bourbons for you all and more rye. My next one will be a rye. I promise you, my next review, I will do a rye. Okay, anyway, until next time, cheers.